Hey guys, thanks for tuning us in for this 63rd episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole, brought to you by our good friends at Smiley's Breezy Vapes. Special guests in this episode include Professor Gregory S. McNeal. We'll also talk with lead singer Eliot Sloan of the band Blessid Union of Souls. We'll talk to Candice Knight from Blackmore's Night. We'll also speak with the genie from Broadway's adaptation of Alladin, Michael James Scott. And our final guest, star of FBI on television, Jeremy Sisto. Of course, if you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and share with your friends. He's tenured professor of law and public policy at Pepperdine University. Gregory S. McNeal, he's also a legal expert with the Regulatory Transparency Project. Man, that's a mouthful. But we're going to talk about something. This kind of interested me. I don't know a whole lot about it, but drones, technology, and all that stuff has a lot of interest to me. So we're going to talk a little about no-fly provisions and several other things. But first off, Gregory, I want to say thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really looking forward to our conversation.
Now, when we talk about drones, the no-fly provisions, give us kind of, like I said, I'm technologically, as far as drones, never had a drone. Haven't been around drones a lot, but tell us kind of, does this affect the day-to-day average American here?
It does affect the day-to-day sort of citizen now, and it's really going to start to affect them more in the future. So this all got kicked off back in 2012 when Congress passed a law known as the FAA Modernization and Reform Act. And if you remember back then, we were all talking about drones, and it was drones on the battlefield sort of targeting terrorists. And when that law was passed, all of a sudden it was about small remote controlled drones that people use to do real estate photography and things along those lines. But then in 2013, Jeff Bezos came along and said, we're going to do package delivery drones. And so a lot of what you see now with the legal and policy developments, the fights that are happening by industry, are fights about these small remote control drones masquerading as fights about the legal cases that'll set the precedent for how those package delivery drones will impact your privacy rights and your property rights. To state that more simply, if your neighbor can fly his or her drone over your property, over your ranch, over your backyard, and if his case wins, then that means Jeff Bezos' Amazon drones can fly every day over your ranch or over your backyard. So they see this as a big deal set of cases that they need to win now when nobody's paying attention.
And that was one of the things I was going to ask you, because of everything that's going on in the world today. Do you think it's easier to kind of slip some of these things under as quietly as possible, if you will?
That's exactly what's going on. Most people aren't paying attention to this. You think drones and you're like, I never see one of these things. It doesn't really matter to me. And, I've been deeply involved in this because 5 years ago, I founded a drone company with a co-founder, and we founded the company based on the idea that state and local governments were going to want to make rules about where drones could fly, and that property owners were going to want to have a say in where and when drones could fly. And we thought the only way drones would be successful was if you sort of adopted that worldview. And we ran into a drone industry that said, how dare you tell us that we can't fly over your property? Airliners fly over your property, so why can't we? And sort of, my response to that was, well, an airliner flies over at, like 20,000 feet, and you're talking about something flying over at, 5, 10, 50, 100 feet. This is really different. So my observations over the last 5 years and my personal experience with this has been that these big companies have been spending millions of dollars on legal cases and lobbying in states and lobbying in the federal government, quietly passing laws and convincing legislators to basically make it so that you have fewer and fewer property rights over your airspace, and to really beat back efforts by legislators. And that kind of brings us to this law in Texas, where there was this big legal fight.
And going into that, what do you think the future is of privacy and safety? I think that's probably where the majority of the case that you're talking about stems from, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the case is, I think on the safety stuff, we can definitely say that that's in the purview of the FAA for the most part, with the exception of when you get really close to the ground and it's sort of the neighborhood kid, or that reckless operator operating the drone over your backyard, or on the street corner, or over a soccer game or a football game. You're not going to call someone from the FAA for that. You're going to call the county sheriff, or you're going to call the local police department. And the federal government doesn't have any resources for that, and they're not even going to answer the phone. I mean, you wouldn't even know what number to call for some federal bureaucrat to show up for that. So there's still a role for state and local governments there. But you're not worried about Amazon or Google or Walmart running unsafe package delivery drones, right? So on that front, the federal government has that under control. On the privacy front, and I would add in here the private property front, like your ability to say, I have property rights and I don't want you trespassing over my land, those things are still left unresolved. And many people, there's been some surveys on this, when they say privacy, what they really mean is not necessarily just the camera taking a picture, and they do mean that, but they also mean the right to be left alone. So if we're in our backyard and the drone flies over the fence at 6 feet altitude, and you tell me it doesn't have a camera on it, I still feel like my privacy right has been violated, and it's my right to be left alone. Like I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Some people say they want to get their shotgun and sort of shoot it out of the sky, or grandma wants to get a broom and whack it out of the sky. And some people say that's a privacy intrusion. And then at the same time, they say like, that's a trespass. This is my property, get the heck out of my property. The thing that's unresolved is historically aircraft have been allowed to fly over your property until such time as they interfere with the use of your property. So the drone industry has spent countless dollars arguing that drones, even in the low altitude airspace down to just above the blades of grass, should be treated just like airliners at 10,000 feet. And I was on a committee where I argued hard against it, and they went after me professionally and personally, sort of attacking me. And there are really some battle lines drawn here between state and local officials and some Congress people on federalism grounds, and then people in industry who have a vested interest in making sure that this property rights perspective doesn't win.
And how much do you think the fear game has been played into the minds of folks that are pushing the opposite way?
Yeah, the way the fear game plays out is that what the corporate interests will do is they'll go to the Chamber of Commerce, and they will say, these state and local governments are trying to destroy businesses by heavily regulating businesses, right? And so where the wheels fall off the wagon are your Republicans, who are typically in favor of states' rights, or federalism, we might call it, and property rights. They run into your Republicans who are in favor of business, right? And then you split that coalition, and then that coalition also starts to fall apart because federalism and states' rights and property rights is something that Republicans generally believe in ideologically, but ideology doesn't cut checks for campaigns, but businesses and chambers of commerce and companies, they fund campaigns and PACs and other things. And so you start to see how the moneyed interests really make things fall apart there. But on the other side of the ledger, you get an interesting alignment then in a bipartisan way with cities, which are, sort of progressives, right? The Conference of Mayors and the National League of Cities, who are like, hey, we want to regulate these things. You can't tell us what to do in our cities, like federal government. We run our cities as mayors. So a couple years ago, there was a piece of legislation called the Drone Federalism Act, which had Senator Mike Lee of Utah and Dianne Feinstein of California. Like, you want to talk about weird dance partners, the two of them partnering. And then another piece of legislation in the House, which I was a big supporter of, called the Drone Innovation Act, which had Mike Lewis, a Republican, former talk show host out of Minnesota, I think it was, and a Democrat congresswoman out of California. And so you get strange bedfellows on these issues, and it all centers around. I think the Democrats like the privacy angle a little bit more, and the Republicans like the property rights angle a little bit more.
And what do you think that we got ahead of the curve soon enough with the technology and the legality of regulation with drones? And how do you think that affects us as we go forward? Because, one of the other things we hear people talk so much about right now is intellectual property, and how folks, whenever they're buying advertising and all that stuff, basically they're buying FaceTime. So how do we start looking regulations with other things moving forward as well?
The most frustrating part about this to me is that the problems that the industry is trying to solve through what is called preemption, by saying the federal government and this federal bureaucracy, the FAA in DC, should control everything, could actually be better solved through technologies. So their claim is, man, if these state and local governments make rules about drones not being able to fly over prisons or being able to fly over your ranch or the electrical utility, which is what they were fighting against in Texas and in all of these other places, they say the whole drone industry will collapse and we'll never have innovation. And I look at that and I say to myself, you mean you guys really can't figure out how to program this into maps? Because all of us, the listeners and everyone else who gets in a car, I know the second a road closure happens on Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze. And the reason that I know that is not because of a government rule run out of the Department of Transportation in DC, but because technology solved that problem. I don't need a bureaucracy and regulations to solve that for me. I need innovation to solve that for me. And we started the segment by talking about how this law was passed in 2012, and we're 8 years later, and we still don't have this dream of package delivery. And that's because we still haven't solved these societal problems, because we're trying to solve them through a federal bureaucracy instead of trying to solve them through technology. And that's what happens when you put it all in DC with a bunch of bureaucrats, instead of relying on technology and trusting the states to innovate. And the states want to do it. Texas is talking about now leasing air rights over their roadways and private property to create drone corridors. I testified before the Oklahoma Senate back in October talking about this exact same thing. And they want to do the same thing over in the same way that people put power lines and phone lines across ranches, and the ranchers make money, using that unused land or land that just sort of steer and cattle are grazing over. They want to use that unused land where aircraft are never flying, and the federal bureaucracy is standing in the way. So we could solve these problems through technology, but it's all centralized in DC. It's really frustrating.
So do you think that it should come down to each individual states having different regulations, or do you think they need, do we need one specific, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
It's not either of those. The legislation that I really supported, that Drone Innovation Act we talked about earlier, the bipartisan legislation that was in the House in 2017, what it proposed was create a federal framework where there would be certain things that the states would be allowed to regulate, which would be specifically the time, manner, and place of drone operations. So like, let's say in your community, the package delivery drones are coming in at every hour of the day and night. You're trying to put your baby to bed, and the kid next door is getting burritos delivered at 11 o'clock at night while he's playing Call of Duty or something. If the federal government controls all of that, you're going to have to call some bureaucrat at the FAA to get it solved. And imagine trying to do that in every community across America. It just won't work. So that would be a time, manner, and place restriction that you should be able to go to your city government and they would set a rule. And that rule would be programmed into a system, a computer system that Amazon would then be aware of. In the same way that when the city closes a road, they communicate that to Waze and Google Maps and Apple Maps and all the other things. And so that would be a time, manner, place restriction. But if the city wanted to say drones can't fly at all, right, that would be something that in the federal framework would be prohibited, right? Because they're basically trying to ban these aircraft. Or if they want to say, drones have to be purple and orange because we prefer that color, right? That's the kind of, or they want to say, they want to mandate certain safety equipment, right? We wouldn't let Norman, Oklahoma decide what safety equipment goes on a 747. We're not going to let them, they don't have the competency to do that. And so creating a framework like that is the way we do things in automobiles. It's the way we do things in lots of other contexts. And I think that's the best framework going forward.
Now, if folks want to find out more information about all the different policies we've talked about and more information, where would they find that?
So I've written a bunch on this. And so my website is GS as in Scott, gsmcneal.com. I tweet about it a lot at Gregory McNeal on Twitter. And then there's a guy at the Mercatus Institute. His name's Brent Skorup. He's writing about this from a property rights perspective. And then I would say you have to be a little careful on Googling this stuff because the industry's been really good at sort of paying people to write papers that are favorable to their perspective. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for. The Heritage Foundation did some pretty good stuff on sort of the balance between innovation and sort of property rights and, a light touch regulation. And then Senator Mike Lee's had some pretty good stuff talking about this as well.
All right. Well, Gregory, it's been great to visit with you today. And like I said, I didn't know a whole lot coming in. I know a little bit more today, though.
Yeah, Cameron, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Again, this episode brought to you by Smiley's Breezy Vapes at 313 Falcon Road. As we get into the holidays, got Red Basket and other specials going on throughout the store. They have the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma with new hardware. And if you have any questions, they can help you all the way from the novice to the vaping legends. If you have questions, give them a call. 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. Our next guest, one of my favorite bands over the years, and like I told him before we come on, giving me cool points with the wife, Blessid Union of Souls. We've got on the line with us, we've got Eliot Sloan with us. And first off, Eliot, thank you for taking some time to be on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Now, Eliot, when I got the word, the 25th anniversary of the album release, and even doing exclusively on an exclusive vinyl release this time around, and how cool is that to celebrate the 25th anniversary?
It's very cool. First of all, I can't believe it's been 25 years because No, seriously, you know how it is. Like, my memories are so vivid of making that first album, even and working on the songs long before we even got signed to the record company. So, I mean, it really, really started in the summer of '92 when we started really putting together songs that were going to be on this first album. So we're talking more like 28 years from where it all began. And if you want to go, when you go a little further back than that, in 1989 is when my ex-partner Jeff and I put the band together. So, you know, it lends to the myth that, you know, things are overnight successes. This was a 6-year night if it was an overnight success.
and Eliot, what was the ride on the album the first time around? What was that ride like for you?
It was magical. It was glorious. It was, I'll tell you, I grew up in Pleasant Ridge, a community in Cincinnati, with posters of Led Zeppelin on my wall, Queen, Prince, and, it had gotten to the point that, I knew that's all I wanted. I wanted to stand in front of a microphone and sing songs. That's what I saw. That's what I saw me doing. And for the experience of actually watching that unfold and actually watching it happen, and it was magical. It was an answer to a lot of prayers. It really was. And being with a team of people that had the same dream, that had the same vision, watching the music come together much better than I thought in my mind. When you're hearing the tracks being laid and you're hearing the final mixes, and then getting signed by the record label and they seeing what we saw, as a band and along with our producer and manager, and you put together, 4 or 5 songs, it's like you really think that these are really good, but there's still always that outside chance that, you're just full of it. And but when the record company came along and, the way all that transpired and signed us and then to have the album actually come out and be in the record stores. This was back in the day of record stores where you could go to a record store and see your album and your CD and your cassette amongst, other artists that you either grew up with and other artists that were coming out around the same time, and you're a part of that. I mean, it's like an exclusive club, and it was just mind blowing, and it's still every day is still mind blowing, even 25 years, 30 years later, it is all still mind blowing to me. Just doing this interview with you. You and I are doing this interview because myself and my colleagues had a dream of making original music and it getting played on the radio and it giving, guys like you props with his wife. I mean, it's an ongoing, beautiful, magical, blessed thing. And I can't put it into I could write a book about how I feel about all this, and I still wouldn't have enough pages left.
Now, you talk about being from Cincinnati. Every time I get somebody on from Cincinnati, I have to ask them Skyline or Gold Star.
Skyline, baby.
And anybody that I've ever talked to with a Cincinnati background, every single one of them says Skyline.
Hey, listen, Gold Star is not bad. That's just how, but it's just how good Skyline is. Gold Star is not. I've had Gold Star. I've had it, and I think that might be. I don't know if that's the official chili of the Cincinnati Reds, or they claim to be. It's good. Skyline is just that much better.
That's good stuff. Now, Eliot, what is the thing that you take the most pride in from the 28, 30 years of Blessid Union of Souls? What fills you with pride the most?
That we wrote our own songs. That we wrote our own. That they came from us. You know, they came from the band. They came from our experiences, our feelings, our musical backgrounds, our heart, our lyrics, our words. That means to me so much. It means so much to me, and not taking away from anything or anybody. You know, not at all. Some of the greatest songs that I love were sung by artists who didn't write the song. And the first song that comes to mind is Joe Cocker singing You Are So Beautiful. He did that song so well that I just knew he had to write that. And the only reason I know that he didn't write it is when Billy Preston passed away a few years ago, one of his songwriting credits was You Are So Beautiful. And I was like, what? I was just blown away at how well, you know, Joe Cocker just made that song. So never taking anything away from that, but I'm just so honored and so blessed and proud that these were songs that we wrote that came from us, you know, just hashing out songs in the studio and finding a sound that fit for us, which is, to me, so important for an artist. Not just the songs, but the sound. You know, what is the artist's sound? What is it? And our sound was our songs, and it still is. And I'm just, that's a blessing. That's a huge blessing right there.
And to be able to, if you include a soundtrack of the 90s, which of your songs would you want to include at the top of that list?
I mean, other than I Believe, I mean, that's the one that really kind of stuck out. That's the one that really stuck out and set us on this road. And again, I just, you know, the comments that we get about that song and how it has affected people in their lives, and you know, the outlook is just beyond me. That's how I know that song is way bigger than me. That's how I know I'm just a conduit for that song. You know, I know me, and I know I'm not that brilliant to go, hey, I'm going to write a song that's going to, you know, affect people for the next 25, 30 years. And it'll mean so much to them throughout their lifetime. I'm not that clever. but to have written that song and to have sung that song and still sing it today, you know, I'm not going to get overly religious on you here, but that ain't nothing but God right there.
Well, you're completely open. It's all good, brother. And now we talked about the home 25th anniversary. Where, Eliot, can folks find information and get one for their family members for Christmas, right?
Well, that part about it is you can pre-order it at our website, blessidunionofsouls.com or blessidunionofsouls.net. Just make sure you spell Blessid, B-L-E-S-S-I-D. And you can pre-order it on our website. They won't be available until the beginning of the year. And there's only a limited amount of, just a limited pressing of this album. So I'm going to order like 5 of them because I want 5 different colors. I'm telling you, I buy every record that we put out. You know, it's, you know, especially when there were record stores. I would go in there and take my cash, lay it on the counter, and buy my record. I don't care. Come on. I mean, that's what I grew up doing, you know?
Yep.
That's what I grew up doing. I hear a record that I like, I go buy it, you know? And And I loved, I grew up on vinyl. I grew up on cassettes and even before that, 8 tracks and obviously CDs. But I loved the albums because it was almost like when me and my brother used to eat bowls of cereal. We'd sit there with that big bowl of cereal and read in the back of the box. Same thing with the music, man. I'd listen to the music and reading all the lyrics, all the credits. Who's the writer? Who's the art director? Who's the composer? Who's the producer? Who played bass on this song? Or who wrote this song? You know, I used to love that. I used to love that about Queen. Queen, one thing I loved about them, all those guys wrote. You know what I mean? And you could look on the tracks, like We Are the Champions and Bohemian Rhapsody and Somebody to Love. Freddie Mercury wrote those. Brian May wrote We Will Rock You. Here's one thing I didn't know that I was surprised. John Deacon, the bass player, wrote You're My Best Friend, which I was like, wow. Roger Taylor, he wrote I'm in Love with My Car. Brian May wrote 39. I mean, it was just like you got a little bit of piece of each and every one of them as far as songwriters, but as a band, you know, they made it their own, the 4 of them. And look, I grew up with artists that wrote their songs, and I thought that's the way everybody did it. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, that's the way I got to do. You know, I can't wait around, for somebody to write me a song. I got to write my own song, you know? So I just, and that's the thing about it. Like, when you see something that's being done and that's all you know, then you just go, oh, well, that's what I have to do. And, you don't even think about, oh, man, do you know how hard it is to write a song, or you know how hard it is to get a song on the radio and all that? It seemed, I don't know if it seemed easy. It just seemed simple. Oh, you write a song. You send out a demo to a record company like Prince did. They sign you. You work on the album, and you go on tour. It's simple, right?
It seems so easy that way, Eliot.
It's so simple, and I just thought that was just the way it was done. So we went and did that. It's a good. I'm telling you, I always tell people, and even today, it's such a blessing to be naive in a lot of ways, because if you know too much, then it'll hamper you. Well, man, you know how hard it is to do this. You got to write a really good hook, and then you got to write some really good lyrics. Oh, and then you got to drive up to New York. And you got to bang on the record companies. You got to bang on the record company's door. And I mean, I'm glad I was just naive to think that this could actually happen. And I think sometimes people overthink things when it comes to their dream and something that they really want to do. I think people overthink, yes. So I don't know, whatever works for the individual. But for me, it was just like, oh, okay, make some music, get a little studio together and make some songs, get with some other people that want to do the same thing you do, write some great songs and make it happen. And I don't know. I don't even know what the question was. I tend to do that. So you're gonna have to reel me back in sometimes to whatever we're talking about.
Oh, well, that's good. But Eliot, it has truly been a privilege to visit with you, man. A huge fan of the music, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon in the new year.
Oh, I would love that. Once things open back up, we get back out on tour and support this album. And I just hope a lot of people get this album and get their different color vinyl. What I want to try to do is I'm hoping that people will videotape themselves opening up their vinyl album to see what color they got and post it all up on social media, send it to the band, send it to you, send it all over and just post it and say, look what just came in the mail and look what color vinyl that I got, and compare them. So it's exciting in the midst of all this chaotic year, and there's been a lot of chaos. But it's been a blessing to be able to get this record done. and celebrate the 25th anniversary of the first album.
Well, that is awesome. And again, Eliot, thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your week. And like I said, we'll catch up again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Again, thanks to our friends at Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road here in Altus, for helping sponsor today's podcast. You can check them out online at smileysbreezyvapes.com. You can also check them out on their Facebook page as well. If you ever have a question, you can give them a call or send a text at 580-471-VAPE. That's 580-471-8273. And be sure and tell them that Cameron sent you. Our next guest is singer and composer, part of Blackmore's Night, Candice Knight. Got a brand new Christmas EP we'll be talking about. The holidays are upon us. The holiday music is out, and we got some brand new music to talk about from Blackmore's Night. Got not only a new single, but the EP available today. And along with that, we've got Carolyn Knight with us. And first off, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Now tell our listeners a little bit about the new EP, the inspiration, and plus how excited you are to put a little jolly in folks' lives this year.
Don't you think we all deserve it by now? Don't we need it, like, really badly? Oh, my goodness, what a crazy, insane year this has been. And it's not even just, like, a local thing. It's, like, worldwide. Everybody is going through the same thing. It's like a bad sci-fi movie. I don't know. So what we decided to do for everybody was, well, first of all, we did a couple of just very acoustic, intimate performances, Richie, of course, my husband, Richie Blackmore, and myself. And we just really wanted to give the gift of music to people. That's what we do. That's the gift that keeps on giving. And it really just makes everything better. You know, music just kind of takes you away from this mindset of these stress and pressures and the unknown of what the future is going to hold and just the craziness that we've been through over the year. So, ironically, we had a new album that was supposed to come out before this pandemic hit. It's called Nature's Light, and instead of it going out when it was supposed to go out in last summer, we held off on that, and we recorded 4 Christmas songs so people would be able to have that for the holiday season. And it's an EP, so it's called Here We Come a-Caroling. We've got it streaming. We've got it in physical copy. We've even got a vinyl for everybody, which is a beautiful kind of Christmas tree color. It's this gorgeous green color, so that'll be out there for people to hear as well. And we've got the 4 songs, Here We Come a-Caroling, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, O Little Town of Bethlehem, which is not, believe it or not, the American version that we're all familiar with, but the version that Richie grew up with over in England when he used to go door to door and collect shillings for singing Christmas carols with his friends. So it's a very different version than we might be used to. And Silent Night. So we get to add those 4 songs to our original Winter Carols CD from 2017, which has a lot of, there's like 15 other tracks of Christmas songs and live tracks, another additional 5 bonus tracks and singles and things on there for people to have. So we've got lots of songs to get you guys through the holidays. The new ones will be really, really nice to add to your collection.
Now, Candice, where did your love for the Renaissance feel of music and era, where did that originate for you?
Believe it or not, I was not familiar, although I was always interested in going to Renaissance fairs. I was not familiar with Renaissance music because I'm a Long Island, New York girl. I didn't really get exposed to a lot of Renaissance music over here. But when I met my husband back in 1989, gosh, it's been 31 years already. And of course, he was playing for Deep Purple and he was with Rainbow as well. And he reformed Rainbow in 95 while I was with him. But what wound up happening when I met him was when he invited me to his home, this big, beautiful Tudor house in Connecticut in the woods. It had a minstrel's gallery up there. And the only music he would play up there was Renaissance music. And it's the first time I ever heard it. So it was kind of like this English Tudor house, and it was the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I would go to visit him, and I'd look out the window, and there would be nothing around but deer and woods, and maybe snow would come down, or the changing of the leaves, and it was so beautiful. And to match it with this music he was playing around the house, it just seemed like the soundtrack to nature. Everything just fit. It was the perfect marriage of visual and audio, and it just really could transport you to another time and place. And it was an amazing escape. Now, music for me has always been an amazing escape from stress and pressures of the world, of anything. I would come home and put my headphones on and just disappear into another world, and I felt like I was home, like it was my religion, it was my breath, it was everything. So I always knew I wanted to be around music. I just never thought that I would be the one on front and center stage. But life takes you in different strange places you don't think you're going to go. But when Richie introduced me to this type of music, and then he and I started just creating our own songs, and that even started when he was recording with Rainbow. The other guys would be doing their tracks, and he and I would be sitting in Massachusetts in an old farmhouse. Well, that's where the studio was, watching the snow come down. Again, that beauty of nature, sitting by a roaring fireplace. He'd have the acoustic guitar, and he and I would just be creating songs, not for anyone to hear, but just for us, as an escape from the pressures of the world. And we created songs that were really, at that point it was a cathartic kind of environment and journey for us to be able to create these things. And when our friends heard those songs and said, if you put those out, we would buy them. We didn't realize we had an audience until people decided that they started, they liked it. And now 23 years into this amazing musical journey, we play these castles overseas or historical venues, or people come all dressed up, in Renaissance garb or fantasy garb to our shows, and it becomes a costume party. And we find it's this amazing meeting of the minds. Our audience is just so there with us. It's this incredible connection, and you can only get that through the magic of music.
That's right. And what have you learned most here in 2020 when you've had to be away from everybody and kind of be more inward visual, if you will? What have you learned most about yourself this year?
I have learned to stop forgetting my mask in the car, because now I have to keep going back 20 times every time to go back and get my mask. I guess Richie and I, we're kind of very solitary people anyway. Like we have this we're very into staying at home. We don't go out a lot. So although the world has changed around us a lot, we've always had this very core strength of being able to survive. Just the two of us. Actually, now we've got our kids, so our 8-year-olds and our 10-year-olds. So it's a whole different world. Thank God, kids are resilient; they can bounce right back. But so even when they're going to school with their masks on and things, it's easier for them to deal with it. But for us, we've always, as soon as we all get into that family environment, we enjoy the beauty of nature. And I feel like a lot of people now, when they're not able to go to gatherings or be around a lot of people, hopefully a lot of people are able to at least walk on the beach by themselves, or go outside and just take a breath of fresh air and get back to self, that purity, that magic, watching a sunset, feeling the wind in your hair, looking at a star-filled sky, and just enjoying the magic of the moment instead of the stress and the pressures that were always put on us for having to, always be available via screens and stuff like that. If we can try to get away from those screens and just really try to get back to, the purity and the innocence is, the core of where you are, and renew your spirit, renew your batteries to try to deal with the things the next day that you have to deal with. It could actually be not a good thing that we're going through all this. I know we're all going through it together and we're all on the same page, but at least we get to appreciate, the simple things in life again, the spending time with your family, maybe not leaving the house, as much, and just really enjoying that connection of, that deep connection of the people that are around you, your core family. So hopefully getting back to that is, it's an important thing.
That's right. And again, available now. Here we come, a Carolyn. It is Candice night. I had caroling on my mind. So anyway, Candice night and Blackmore's night. Candice, let our listeners know where to keep up with not only the music, but everything you guys have going social media wise as well.
Oh, we've got a list of places. We've got CandiceNight.com. We've got Blackmore's Night or RichieBlackmore.com. That's another site. We've got 3 different Facebook pages. We've got Official Candice Night, Official Blackmore's Night, and Official Richie Blackmore. We're updating all the time. We've got 2 Instagram sites. We've got True Candice Night is an Instagram site. I'm on there almost daily, I'm sure. Richie actually just opened his own Instagram site. I'm so proud of him. So, He's very anti-technology, so he'll tell me which pictures to put up and he'll tell me what to say. So he's doing it through me, but still, at least we got him on there. And we also did a corresponding Twitter page for him as well. And of course, I've got my Twitter page and Tumblr. So we are all over social media. And of course, all of these tracks will be available via iTunes and Spotify and Amazon. And we've got everybody covered from all the normal places where they usually get music from. So they get to enjoy the music of the holiday season and that magic. And I wish everyone a wonderful, happy holiday and Merry Christmas.
You too. And Candice, thank you so much for your time. Have a great weekend and a happy holiday as well.
You too. Great talking to you.
Speaking of holiday music, we've got The Genie from Broadway's Alladin. Michael James Scott, a brand new Christmas album he'll be talking about, A Fierce Christmas. First off, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I am so happy to chat with you about all of the good music going on right now.
That is right. And the new holiday album, A Fierce Christmas. Now, is that like a tongue-in-cheek for Sasha? Are you trying to be Sasha? Is that what this is all about?
You caught me. Listen, I wanted you to smile. For me right now, we need some joy. We need some love. We need some light. We need some laughter. And so for me, it was starting with the title. So I wanted people to look at it. I wanted you to feel joy. I wanted you to say the words "A Fierce Christmas." And if you say the words "A Fierce Christmas," it makes you laugh. It makes you smile. It makes you think of, okay, this is going to be some fun.
That's right. And with Broadway being shut down, you wanted to, I know that part of your goal with this album was to put some smiles on folks' faces. And I know was it a little harder for you to keep smile on the face with all that's going on and Broadway shut down and the performances as well?
To be honest with you, absolutely, yes. It has been quite a challenging time for all of us. I mean, Broadway it's the heartbeat of New York City, but also not just Broadway, the theater around this country. It is the heartbeat in communities, and it affects not just the actors, but so many people around. You just see the actors on stage, but then there's an entire village of incredible artists to make it happen, designers, the crew, musicians, the house staff. And then, we start branching out, in terms of the hotels and restaurants and all the things are right around the theater areas where they are. So yes, it's been pretty tough, and I knew that I needed to do something that needed some joy, to bring some joy to people, because it's not only been tough for, of course, the entertainment industry, but for most Americans. We are all in the same boat. And, in this racial awakening, in this time of equality and diversity, inclusivity, in the middle of a pandemic, my protest to it all is joy. That's what I'm doing. That is what's important for me to do. That is what I could do as an artist. That's what I wanted to give out, and I wanted to make people smile. If there's one thing, as divided as we are in this country, one thing that can bring us all together is fierce holiday music. How about that?
Bring some fierce holiday jams. I love that. And Michael, tell us a little bit about picking the songs that were included on the album. What made why was it the songs that made the album? How'd they make the cut for you?
Well, okay. I have been, actors practice their Emmy and Oscar speeches, when they are little. I've been practicing my holiday album since I was a little boy. Okay, that is for me what I've been doing. So I've had a list of songs. I'm obsessed with holiday music. I love it so much, and I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to take the classics. I wanted to pay homage to the classics, but put my thing on it. So I love the old school big band. I grew up in the church. So there's that gospel influence, and then funk, and then of course Broadway, and you combine all of that with some fierceness, and then you got you a fierce holiday album. That is how we. That's how we did it. That's how I wanted to make it. Make it happen. That is how it all came. And please, I had these songs. Like I said, I had these songs ready on a list to go. They're all the classics. Which is it's a little intimidating when you take on the classics, but I'm used to intimidating roles. Okay, I'm used to as the genie. So I was like, listen, if I can tackle the genie, I'm going to tackle me some traditional, gorgeous holiday music and put my thing onto it.
Now, was the genie more of a challenge for you taking on, or maybe I wonder if the donkey might have been more of a challenge for you?
Oh my goodness, they both are pretty challenging to say the least. I will say the genie, because it is like the genie is really driving the ship. The donkey really, he gets to truly add the sidekick, funny ridiculousness of it all, which is really fun and to do. But the genie is driving the ship. So he's not only the comedic element of it, but he is the captain of the ship. He is the heart. He's driving it. So it's to me it was that. But listen, when you get to tell the audience to give you more applause, during a show, why not?
There is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Now, the album is the album's available Saturday. Am I right?
The album is available. Yes. It's actually available right now. It's actually available right now, which is incredible. So you can go to michaeljamesscott.com. I'm going to say it again, michaeljamesscott.com, and go to music right there on the homepage. It'll take you to all the places. If not, you can go to any of the platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, you name it, it's on there. You can also actually, people still do want real CDs. So we have CDs on my site. You can, get them through there. And an old school vinyl. We have a vinyl as well. Like birth of vinyls, it's so cool to have an actual record. I was like, we need a hug. We need like a big old comfort hug. So that's what this album, I wanted you to feel like it was a Christmas hug. So there's a vinyl for you too.
There you go. And what does your fierce Christmas plans look like? I mean, aside from spinning the tunes in the background, right?
Yes, sir. So, listen, my fierce Christmas is going to be very chill. On the actual day. However, I am doing my concert live outside I'm beyond excited. Down in my hometown of Orlando, Florida, there's the big performing arts center, the Dr. Phillips Center. They just announced, and they're building it right now, an outdoor theater. There are socially distant pods, like boxes, where people are in. So it's unbelievable what they've done. It's presented by Advent Health, so it's like it's very they're making it very safe, and the stage is gigantic. It's so everything is spread out. It's so exciting, and I am getting to go and do a one of a kind outdoor concert event of my holiday album. So I'm doing that Saturday, December 19th. If you're down in Orlando, come on down and see us. And then after that, I'm going to sit right on the couch and have some eggnog and, Christmas cookies and some stuffing and turkey and watch, a Peanuts Christmas. Charlie Brown.
There you go. Well, Michael James Scott, check out his album, A Fierce Christmas, and thank you for your time this morning. Hope you have a great holiday season, my friend.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you and to all of your listeners. I wish you all the very, very best. Please keep loving, keep laughing, keep the joy and the hope alive. We're going to get through all this. We're going to start off the new year with some joy, and we're going to go into that to try and get back to some normalcy of it all. So much love to you all, and happy holidays.
Thanks again to Shelly and our friends over at Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road, helping sponsor today's podcast. And go in and check out their great selection of disposables. They've always got red baskets and other specials, especially during the holiday season. Check those out. If you've got a certain flavor that you're looking for, pretty good chance that they've got the flavor you're looking for. If not, they can order it for you. And they do have the largest selection of disposable flavors in Southwest Oklahoma. That's Smiley's Breezy Vapes, 313 Falcon Road, smileysbreezyvapes.com. wavve.link.com. And our final guest, Jeremy Sisto. You know him from the screen all the way back. My first recollection would be from Clueless, but now on FBI. We'll be visiting with Jeremy about the pandemic as well as the upcoming episodes of Season 3. First off, Jeremy, good to visit with you, my friend.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Now, the new third season, man, did you wonder if it was ever going to come around, Jeremy?
Well, I think we all did. It was a really scary period that we hadn't experienced before, and fortunately we can see some light at the end of the tunnel, I think. But yeah, those beginning that first month, those beginning weeks were definitely pretty harrowing, whatever that word is. And we didn't know where if this was going to be a new normal, and what that meant for everyone's. Fortunately, we're back at it. We're doing everything we can to be safe. We have had a couple of crew members get the coronavirus, but the way they've organized it makes it pretty easy to peel that person off, make sure they get well, and anyone who came into contact with them. So anyway, all the protocols are going, and we're fortunate to keep it going up.
Now, with the extended downtime, even with kind of a newer series, did it make it maybe a little of a lag period getting back into the groove, if you will, when you guys got back together?
No, not really. I mean, listen, Dick Wolf creates a pretty steady ship. So the DNA of the show is so that it can really it can handle changes, sudden changes. It can handle a lot and still stay on the tracks. So yeah, we did lose 4 episodes. We lost some really cool episodes with Tracy from Chicago PD coming over to sort of take Maggie's spot while Missy was out having her baby. So we lost those episodes, but we got back into it, and yeah, Missy, our lead agent, is back. She was undercover, and she's back. She got a new boyfriend in the mix that's getting drawn some conflict with her and her partner OA with Zico. And we've had some great episodes already. And actually, this week is an amazing episode. Everyone's so excited about it. Next week, where are we? It's Friday, right? Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, you've wetted our whistles a little bit. Tell us what we can expect. Obviously, you can't give us too much about the upcoming episode.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how much I can say, but yeah, it's a more cinematic episode. One of the analysts that usually works in the jock with me in the war room, and is usually spouting information, tracking down video and facial recognition stuff, and she gets herself into some trouble, and she gets a bomb attached to her neck, actually, and the team has to rally around her, and so it's a special episode because you get thrust into a character who you're used to seeing, but you're not used to knowing really who she is, and suddenly you really get to see who this person is and what her home life is and what she'll be losing if she dies. And the team really rallies around her. Alana has some great stuff, has some really hard decisions to make as the SAC, and it's just a really dynamic episode that I haven't actually seen it in its fullness yet. But everyone I've talked to, the creatives above, are super excited about it. So everyone should definitely tune in.
And how much pride does that give you as well to know the depth of the cast to be able to pull off an episode like that? To some degree, it was Vedette Lynn is the actress who plays the character, and she's done some great stuff. So we I'm sure they knew she could pull it off, but at the same time, it's always to some degree, when they write an episode like this, they're stepping out a touch of the comfort zone of the show, and putting some more weight on the shoulders of the actors, which I think the actors are super excited about and jump at. But
there's a little less certainty of what the show is going to turn out to be, and so makes it even more exciting, I think, for everyone when it turns out as good as this one seems to have turned out.
And Jeremy, for you, the 2020 being what it has been for everybody, what this is my tag question as of late. What have you learned most in 2020 you're going to carry into 2021, my friend?
That's a good question. Kind of depends on the day for me. This morning I went to the dentist, so the flossing is the lesson that I'll be taking into the into the future. I mean, listen, it's a lot. It's all about my kids for me, trying to figure out how to help them understand a world where suddenly everyone's got to stay away from each other, and how that can happen while also not and feeling super isolated. A lot of people, I have a lot of friends who've been going through some hard times, mental illness becomes a real challenge. Sobriety becomes a real challenge. A lot of things that are already a challenge become much more difficult in isolation. So, staying connected takes effort, and so that's something that I'm constantly having to remind myself.
There you go. Well, Jeremy, again, new episodes Tuesday evenings, 9 Eastern, 8 local time on CBS FBI. And Jeremy, I always want to make sure and let our listeners know where to keep up with everything you got going on social media wise as well.
I think I'm Jeremy Sisto at Twitter and Sisto at Instagram. Yeah, follow me. Come on. I don't post all that much, but I get into phases. Over quarantine, I was reading stories. I read Little Women and some Sherlock Holmes on my Instagram, and so that was fun. I might get back into that at some point. So come on and follow me.
There you go. Well, Jeremy, always good to visit with you, my friend. Have a great weekend and a very happy holiday season as well.
You too, my friend. Happy holidays.
Thanks for tuning in this episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, anything else you'd like to know, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at GQwithCam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. If you have a special guest idea, email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back with episode 64 coming up on Monday. Playing into the weekend, our good friend Brandon Allen came up with this theme music for Good Questions. Have a great weekend.